Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our last election board meeting.
Motion. Second.
On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the minutes have been approved. Before I give the opportunity for the public to address the board on agenda items only, just a few rules of the road. When you come up to speak before the election board, you have 3 minutes. You will hear a bell go off when your 3 minutes is up, and then I would ask you to please politely sit down. When you come up to the podium, you must state your name and address for our record. Also, remember that we are in a courtroom, so there has to be a level of decorum in a public meeting, so no name calling. Just state your case and then sit down when you're finished. Now is the opportunity for the public to address the board on agenda items only. So if you'd like to speak, you may only speak on the things listed as agenda items. Would anybody like to address the board? Okay, seeing that there is no one, we'll start with motion 24-2009. This is a motion to assign poll workers to work the November 5th, 2024 general election outside of their voting district. And here to speak on that is Director of Elections, Beth Hopkins.
Thank you, Commissioner. As you know, we have 163 precincts in Lackawanna County, and we have elected judges of election, majority inspectors, minority inspectors, and appointed clerks. Sometimes the elected officials in those precincts are unable to serve on election day, or there could be a vacancy. And sometimes we cannot find a registered voter in Lackawanna County to serve in the position within the election district they're registered to vote in. So it is your requirement as the board to approve the assignment of those poll workers, because they're going to work outside of their election district, but they are registered voters of Lackawanna County. And we're kind of fortunate that we have citizens in our county that are willing to step up to the plate on election day and help us out.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Director Hopkins? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion. Second.
On the question, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion has been approved. Motion 24-2010. This is a motion to permanently relocate the polling location of Old Forge 1 from Miles Street Community Park Pavilion, First and Miles Street, Old Forge, to Eagle McClure Hose Company, number 1-375 Milwaukee Avenue, Old Forge. And here to speak on this again is Director Hopkins.
Thank you, Commissioner. In the primary election in April, we had some issues with the polling place. They had changed the traffic pattern, and we received countless phone calls from voters that were receiving tickets for parking near that polling place. So we kind of got together with some of the elected officials in Old Forge and decided that it was in the best interest of the voters that we move this to a better location with parking, because the voters were dissatisfied with going to that polling place in the last election cycle.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'll entertain the motion.
Motion. Second.
On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion has been approved. Motion 24-2011. This is a motion to permanently relocate the polling location of Old Forge 3 from Old Forge Borough Senior Center, 310 South Main Street, Old Forge, to, again, Eagle McClure Hose Company, 375 Milwaukee Avenue, Old Forge. And again, Director Hopkins.
So, Commissioner, this is probably the 8th or 9th election that we came to the Board of Election meeting, and we were temporarily moving this polling place because there had been construction at the Old Forge Borough building, and they really didn't want to entertain being a polling place moving forward. So we have decided to go ahead and make this a permanent move, and all of the voters in that ward will be notified with a letter.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Director Hopkins? Okay, I'll entertain the motion.
Motion. Second.
On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion has been approved. Motion 24-2012. This is a motion to permanently relocate the polling location of Old Forge Ward 1, or 6-1 from Old Forge Municipal Building, 310 South Main Street, Old Forge, to Eagle McClure Hose Company, 375 Milwaukee Avenue in Old Forge. And again, Director Hopkins.
It would be the same reason. It's the same location that we're at the Borough building, and we're going to move it to the hose company.
Got it. Okay, I will entertain the motion.
Motion. Second.
On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion has been approved. Next is motion 24-2013. This is a motion to permanently relocate the polling location of Old Forge 6-2. This is from the Old Forge Municipal Building, 310 South Main Street, Old Forge, to the Eagle McClure Hose Company, 375 Milwaukee Avenue in Old Forge. And I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion. Second.
On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion has been approved. Motion 24-2014. This is a motion to permanently relocate the polling location of Scranton 23-1 from St. Clair's Church, 2301 North Washington Avenue in Scranton, to Robert Morris, number 27 School, 1824 Boulevard Avenue in Scranton. And Director Hopkins is going to speak on this.
Commissioner, on May 10th, we received a letter from Monsignor Van Loon, who's the pastor at St. Clair's St. Paul's Church, and they notified us that they no longer wanted to serve as a polling place for Lackawanna County. So our Deputy Director of Elections contacted the Scranton School District, and they were kind enough to allow us to put another polling place at Robert Morris School. And all of these voters will be notified with a letter.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Director Hopkins? I'll entertain the motion.
Motion. Second.
On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion has been approved. Motion 24-2015. This is a motion to temporarily relocate the polling location of Music number 2 from Greenwood Hose Company, 3729 Bernie Avenue in Music, to the Music Youth Center at 606 Main Street in Music. And Director Hopkins is going to speak on this as well.
We were notified on July 30th by John Fauver, who's a lieutenant for the Greenwood Hose Company, that we were unable to use the hose company as a polling place this election cycle. It's under construction, and they said we couldn't use it for this cycle and moving forward next year. So hopefully it'll be done for the general in '25. So we went out and did an accessibility study and decided to move it to the Music Youth Center.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Director Hopkins? Okay, I'll entertain the motion.
Motion. Second.
On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion has been approved. Motion 24-2016, this is a motion to temporarily relocate the polling location of Music number 4 from Greenwood Hose Company, 3729 Bernie Avenue in Music, to the Music Youth Center, 606 Main Street in Music. I'll entertain the motion.
Motion. Second.
On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion has been approved. And finally, motion 24-2017. This is a motion to temporarily relocate the polling location of Scranton 6-1 from Riverside Housing, 200 Emmett Street in Scranton, to Jackson Heights, 1001 Jackson Street in Scranton. And Director Hopkins is also going to speak on this.
Commissioner, there was a fire at the Riverside Housing a few years ago, so we don't want to make this a permanent move. There has been talk that perhaps they're going to rebuild that room, so at this time, we're going to leave that as a temporary relocation.
Thank you. Any questions for Director Hopkins? I'll entertain the motion.
Motion. Second.
On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion has been approved.
I'd like to present a motion before we go to. All right, folks, so I'm going to present a motion here. You know, there are concerns that I have also raised by our constituents. After careful consideration of security and integrity of our election process, I move that we eliminate the use of drop boxes for the return of election ballots in Lackawanna County. The drop boxes were introduced as a temporary measure during the pandemic, which is now over. Their continued use has raised issues regarding chain of custody, transparency, and potential misuse. Additionally, after paying about $250,000 to a financial consultant, we're advised not to spend money that's unnecessary. So With that, I would think that would be also irresponsible to continue the practice. The placement of each drop box is done by our county maintenance people. Then daily, our election officials, along with sheriff deputies, drive around the county to pick up the few ballots that end up in each box every day. This is a huge waste of taxpayer money. By removing drop boxes, we can return to a more traditional and secure methods of ballot submission, such as in-person voting, mail-in ballots, mailing ballots, or bring them directly to the Lackawanna County Board of Elections on Wyoming Avenue. This will increase public confidence in our elections and ensure more efficient use of our county resources. Therefore, I make a motion to eliminate drop boxes in Lackawanna County.
Okay, there's been a motion. Is there a second?
No.
Seeing that there is no, I'll also say no. Seeing that there is no second, the motion dies. Just on the issue of the drop boxes, because I'm sure some people are going to speak on it. The Lackawanna County Bureau of Elections has worked with multiple municipalities across Lackawanna County to provide safe, secure, ADA-compliant locations for ballot drop boxes since 2020. The drop boxes are a safe and secure manner for Pennsylvania voters, Lackawanna County voters, to return their completed absentee or mail-in ballots. Under Pennsylvania law, voters must return their own ballots. The only exception to this are for voters with a disability who have designated someone in writing utilizing a designated agent form to deliver their ballot. All 6 ballot drop boxes are under 24/7 video surveillance. Counterfeiting, forging, tampering with, or destroying ballots is a second-degree misdemeanor pursuant to Sections 1816 and 1817 of the Pennsylvania Election Code. Tampering with a voting machine is also a second-degree misdemeanor under Section 1818 of the Pennsylvania Election Code. In the November 2022 election cycle, the drop boxes collected 4,011 ballots. In the May 2023 primary election cycle, the drop boxes collected 2,071 ballots. In the November 2023 election cycle, the drop boxes collected 2,577 ballots. In the April 2024 primary election cycle, the drop boxes collected 2,513 ballots. The drop boxes provide a sense of security to the voters utilizing the boxes, knowing the ballots are collected daily by a voter registration staff member who previously served as a United States postal worker for over 30 years and a Lackawanna County Sheriff's deputy. The authorized representative from the voter registration office reviews the seals placed on the drop box and records the seal numbers on the ballot return site collection form. The seals are removed for the retrieval of the ballots. The representative counts the ballots collected in the presence of the Lackawanna County Sheriff's deputy, and the total number of ballots retrieved is confirmed. The ballot retrieved number is recorded on the collection site form, and the form is signed and dated by the voter registration employee and the sheriff's deputy. The ballots are placed in a locked transport box, and new seals are placed on the drop box and logged on the ballot return site collection form. Upon the arrival of the ballots in the Lackawanna County Voter Registration Office, the ballot transport box is unlocked, and the director or deputy director of elections verifies the number of ballots confirmed and signs the collection form. So that is the entire process. It is really not that exciting, but that's what it is. Commissioner McGloin?
Thank you, Commissioner Gaunt. I would just like to address something pertaining to a question that was brought up by a member of the audience at the most recent commissioners meeting regarding my eligibility as a member of the Board of Elections while also being a delegate to the Democratic National Convention. The Pennsylvania Election Code provides that the Board of Commissioners shall serve as the County Board of Election except when a commissioner is a candidate for nomination or election to any public office. The Pennsylvania Election Code defines a public office as any federal, state, or political subdivision, office, or position of employment requiring the individual elected or appointed, to render public service for a fixed fee or compensation. The term does not include the office of Notary Public or Commissioner of Deeds. The Lackawanna County Home Rule Charter provides that the county commissioners serve as the Board of Elections except when eligible for re-election. The position of delegate to a political party is not a public office, but rather an internal party position, which does not exercise any governmental authority or perform any duties for the general public. The position is not classified as public office under Pennsylvania law. In this matter, where I had the privilege of serving as a delegate to a national party convention, such position does not render me ineligible to serve on the Board of Elections again. The position of delegate is an internal party position and holds no governmental authority. Neither the PA Elections Code nor the Lackawanna County Home Rule Charter require a commissioner who had served as a delegate to a party convention to step aside from the Board of Elections. It is not deemed a conflict of interest by either the Election Code or the Home Rule Charter. So, if anyone here today is here to discuss this matter, allow me to take the wind out of your sails before you do so. I won't now or at any time be removing myself from the Board of Elections, and I will not address this matter any further. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McGloin, and now is the opportunity for the public to address the board. If you would please come up and stand at the podium, state your first and last name and your address, and you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Bob Bolus, Scranton, Pennsylvania, resident, registered voter. I totally agree with Commissioner Chermak. What we haven't heard here today is how much does this all cost with the drop boxes in lieu of a stamp? Just like an absentee ballot, you put your ballot in, you put a stamp on, and you mail it. We don't need additional cost or surveillance or questioning of what goes on and what doesn't go on. And in the ballot box, how many ballots were in there that were no good or were garbage and other stuff that was thrown in? We haven't heard none of that. The ballot boxes are not a necessary evil. They are an evil. And what we're not hearing here today is the cost of our sheriff, our people to sit here and monitor this 24/7 and everything else, when you could go to the post office and put your stamp on and mail your ballot just like you would an absentee ballot. I adamantly oppose keeping ballot boxes in this environment again. They need to be eliminated. We need to go back to the way we were. We need to add credibility and integrity into our system that we've lost. We have early voting. Election day is election day, and that's when people should come and vote. You got an absentee ballot, you request it, it's legitimate. I haven't heard any of that here. All I heard about everything else, but how we legitimize election day and not have what we had in the past. This is about the integrity of the United States of America. It's not just Lackawanna County. We need to eliminate these boxes, go back to the way voting was done, mail in your ballot. We know it's legitimate, and we don't have to spend all the money and inconvenience our people when they could be doing other jobs. Thank you.
Lorraine Cummings, Old Forge. Good move on Old Forge's where we're voting. I appreciate that. Thank you. So I guess this is to the people that run our elections every year. I know that we're counting the ballots at the county now instead of in our polling locations. And I got my list for all the people that are mailing in ballots for Old Forge. Ward 1 has 26 Republican mail-in ballots so far and 48 Democrat mail-in ballots so far. I think we can go back to the old way. We don't have to count the votes at the county anymore. Our polling locations should be sufficient, and we elect those people that are Republican and Democrat to count the ballots. We don't do that at the county. So are we paying the people that are doing additional counting at the county as well, for one? And why can't we just have the people that were elected to count the votes in the polling locations now? Why do we have to bring them back to the county? That's my question to the election board. Can I get an answer now? You're shaking your head no.
You can put your questions in writing, and we will respond at the appropriate time. But this is public comment, so you just state your piece and then sit down.
Well, that's a question, that's not a comment, so, and if they can actually tell the people how this used to work, because a lot of people don't understand that we used to count the ballots in the polling locations, and we actually vote for those people. You're saying the sheriffs are gonna pick up these ballots at the box? We didn't vote for them to do that. We voted for the sheriff, but we didn't vote for that gentleman. He was hired. So is he a Democrat or a Republican? I don't know, you know? Who's counting these, where's the integrity of that vote? This is a whole hodgepodge of problems with chain of custody, and we don't need it anymore. COVID's over. We need to go back to our regular way of voting. You three have the ability to do that, and I would appreciate that you do. Thank you.
Director Hopkins. Thank you.
Lynn Kokinda, 1046 Water Street, Music. This is kind of bouncing off of what Lorene said. Do you hire extra people at election time for the Board of Elections office?
We do.
You do? Do we have any Republicans working in that office?
So
Because that's the nice thing about it being counted at the polling places, is that you do have both parties being represented. I don't know, do you have Republicans at the
So
election board office?
Two comments. You can state your questions, and Director Hopkins will address them when everyone is done speaking.
Okay. Oh, she can't answer them now?
No.
No, she's not allowed to answer my questions. Okay.
Sir, excuse me, we're not allowing anyone to speak out from the audience. Sir, you're not allowed to speak out in the audience, please. Public decorum.
We have a right here, and you're
Sir,
shutting everybody down.
Sheriff, can you please remove him from the chambers?
Never have to all week, because
Thank you.
It's a smoke and mirrors show, and you guys aren't being honest with the public. You commissioners are a disgrace.
I spoke to Beth about this before, but if she could clarify everything to everybody. A recent PA Supreme Court ruling said that a mail-in ballot where there is not an accurate date on the outer envelope is to be thrown out. As stands, does that mean you have to throw out mail-in ballots without proper dates on the envelope when they come into your office? What is the plan for these improperly dated mail-in ballots for our election board? The last one is, I looked at the voter registration application. Number 7 asks for the Pennsylvania driver's license or the PennDOT ID card number. Last 4 digits of your social security number. There's a box, quote, I do not have a PA driver's license or a PennDOT ID card or social security number. What happens to the application if they check that box? That means, where's their ID? What happens to the application when number 7's box is filled out that they don't have a PA driver's license, a PennDOT ID, or social security number? These are just questions we would like to know. This isn't anything, we just have questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Bob Pettinato. It's been a long, long time since I sat at one of these meetings. Thank you for listening. I came here this afternoon to announce the formation of the Lackawanna Election Integrity Force, which is being assembled and will be an active participant in this election cycle. We have a mission of 3 main objectives. The first being assistance with others who are on a national basis looking at the voter rolls in an effort to cleanse them of ineligible voters. We're supplementing work that's being done by other groups nationally, and with particular emphasis on the eligibility of voters that are on the voter rolls. Additionally, we will be looking for irregularities on mail-in ballots. Some of the prior speakers and some speakers after me will have more detail on exactly what we're looking for. But Lackawanna County has had incidents in the past. And I personally witnessed in my first election numerous ineligible ballots, absentee ballots. That was before mail-in ballots. We had 8,000 absentee ballots in Lackawanna County at that time. More in Lackawanna County, incidentally, than Philadelphia County. Now we're talking 30, maybe 40,000 mail-in ballots. So the problem has been multiplied 4 or 5 times. And the ability to swing an election now is possible with that number of mail-in ballots.
3 minutes are up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Commissioner.
Just to finalize, okay, we will be pursuing any irregularities
Thank you.
with penalties to the full extent of the law.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners and our esteemed election board. Frank Scavo, Lackawanna County, Old Forge. I just spent 2 weeks in our sister county, Luzerne, watching how they conduct elections, ballot boxes, drop boxes, all of that. So what I've learned, and I'm going to share this with you, some of the people may not know exactly what happened. Act 77 in 2019, the year is 2019, changes us from a lot of in-person voting to the mail-in voting. There is no provision for drop boxes. Let me state that again. The way the Pennsylvania State Legislature intended for us to vote, if it was not in person or absentee, is now through the U.S. postal system. Fill it out, put a stamp on it, mail it. There's no provisions for drop boxes in Act 77, so hopefully that will help temper your decisions and your statements, because the Pennsylvania Legislature did not intend for drop boxes. So I continue. In 2020, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, during the COVID emergency declaration by Governor Wolf, said, let's put drop boxes in. This was only temporary. So a Supreme Court in Pennsylvania says we can have drop boxes. June 16th of 2021, the pandemic emergency action was done away with. It was rescinded. So now the impetus and the need for these ballot boxes has pretty much evaporated. So I ask, Luzerne County, Lackawanna County, what's the difference between the dividing line of these counties? Not much, because the reason that Luzerne County did away with these drop boxes is that the insurance doesn't cover the liability if something happens at that drop box, and also litigation. Let's say that a candidate says, oh, there's fraud in these drop boxes. Is the county going to spend millions of dollars because their E&O insurance doesn't cover this? These are all things before we say, hey, we're going to keep these drop boxes.
We have to know. Now, I heard you explain your chain of custody, all well and good. But a lot of this fraud happens upstream. If there is fraud, remember, if there's no conspiracies, then there's no coincidences. So if the ballots are not being tainted upstream of your chain of custody, all well and good. But you don't know that because there's no one at the ballot box saying, okay, let me see your ID before you deposit this. So these are all things you guys got to talk or think about. Plus, to get to a ballot box right here in the county government center, there's 100 mailboxes in Scranton that you will pass by to get to this one box. So it's not convenience. So there's a lot of things that need to come into play here. And also, Jamie Walsh is here today from the 117th district. He won that race by 3 votes. It's important to have election integrity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Joseph DeLucy, resident, Scranton. Pretty simple guy, so I won't take a whole heck of a lot of time here. You gave us the numbers of people who have used the drop boxes. The drop boxes were brought about because of a national health emergency, which no longer exists. You have not given us one solid reason as to why they remain. You gave us, I believe, one person picks up on a daily basis the ballots and brings them to, I'm assuming, a secure location where they'll be counted. I need to know what political party does that person who's picking them up on a daily basis, that one person, and where he's bringing them to, what political party are the people who are counting them? Okay? I don't know exactly, the gentleman up on the left, I don't know exactly where you fall into this, who's watching the chain of custody. But if you're involved in the counting or any of that, I'm taken aback, quite frankly, by, in my opinion, your arrogant stance on I'm not going to step away from this and I won't be taking any more questions. We are the public. We have the right to know these things. There's far too many questions going on about the last few years of elections that you can't just shut us down like this. It just can't happen that way. So I would like to know, my questions are, who follows the chain of custody? What political party does the gentleman who picks them up or the person who's 30 years in the post business, what political affiliation is he and where are they taking them to and what political affiliation are the people who are counting these votes? And perhaps maybe a reason why we still need these drop boxes. We no longer have the health emergency. Thank you for giving me a moment.
Hello, my name is Angelo Jarman. I'm a registered voter in Blakely, Pennsylvania. And I want to apologize for my dress today. I only learned about this meeting about an hour beforehand, so had to rush over here. But I would like to start by saying that drop boxes in Lackawanna County, as you have pointed out, have provided access to our polls for thousands of residents here. I believe you said about 4,000 in 2020 and about 2,500 in the election since. And I believe that it is very important that we don't rob those people of their right to vote simply because some people believe in baseless conspiracy theories about the integrity of our elections. We have chain of custody. There has been no successful lawsuit over election fraud since 2020. Every single effort that has been made to prove election fraud in the courts has fallen flat. There is no proof whatsoever of this fraud happening, and I do not believe that it is justified to deprive people of their right to vote just because some of these people here have stated, some of the speakers here have stated, that they believe that more Democrats are going to be using drop boxes than Republicans. We shouldn't be considering partisanship when it comes to our Board of Elections. This is a neutral setting where we should be focused on everyone having the right to vote, regardless of their political affiliation. And that's what I came here today to emphasize, that everyone has the right to vote. Disabled people deserve the right to vote, and that right should be protected. Drop boxes are a means of enabling those who could otherwise not vote due to disability or time constraints to have their voice heard and to have a say in their government. And I am only here to advocate to protect that. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
David Karagas, Newton Township, registered independent for many years. A couple of quick issues to the person who just spoke before me. In person, let alone mail-in voting fraud, is easy. It's incredibly easy to commit, and it's virtually impossible to prove. I could give you a primer on it in a few minutes. Time here doesn't allow me. Anybody wants to hear it, it's fine. You all worked elections. You surely know how easy it is. Anybody that's worked an election knows it. I've worked elections for 30 years now. My primary concern here today was the counting of the mail-in and drop-box box ballots. Who are going to be the watchers at the facility, since, as has been noted, we're not sending the ballots to the polls where we used to. I was a poll watcher in 1998, had the biggest poll in Lackawanna County, which was Kaiser Valley Community Center, during a congressional race, which was decided by less than 550 votes, shut down due to interference with the absentee ballots by the judge of election. So this has been going on for a while. You need good watchers there. You need people who know what they're doing. I am more than willing to volunteer my time and experience at wherever you're counting these. You just said there's going to be over 2,000 drop boxes and how many thousands of mail-ins. That's a large enterprise. That's a large issue. There has to be watchers there from both parties and as many independents as possible. So I want to know, who are these watchers going to be at these? Because these are the most vulnerable votes. Where is it going to be held? How is it going to be handled? The other issue is the drop boxes itself. We don't need them anymore. As has been noted by several speakers, they're not of any use anymore. You can mail in your ballot, that's fine. I've handled mail-in ballots before. You need to get rid of them. We don't need the expense. We don't need the disruption in chain of custody, et cetera. So this is a very contentious issue. It's a very matter of secure, especially in this particular race. Again, I would like to know what the procedure would be, where the ballots are going to be counted, if they're not, and why are they not being sent, as when we had mail or absentee, which are different than mail-in, that was a different system. But send them to the polls, let the individual watchers there deal with it. You now have signature verification, you have dates on it. I've been at polls where they just started opening the absentees individually. Okay, John Smith voted, open it, okay, then open the interior ballot. You can't do that because you just announced who Joe Smith is voting for. These interior ballots, the interior envelopes have to be set aside, mixed, and then counted. This is a common occurrence. It was a common occurrence before.
Thank you, sir. Your time is up.
All right, thank you.
Renee Sabovitz, North Abington Township, and I have 2 points to make. The first one, everyone has access to voting, whether they're disabled, able-bodied, or whatever. We have hundreds of mailboxes all across our county. We have post offices. We do not need drop boxes. Second point, how much do these drop boxes cost our taxpayers? Does Lackawanna County have all this extra money to spend on overtime for deputies to go and collect, surveillance systems on all of these drop boxes, people to review all the video? Where is this money coming from? Our county couldn't even open up pools for our children to swim in during the hot summer because we didn't have the money. But we have money to waste on drop boxes. I do hope that everyone sees that we have higher priorities in this county to spend money on, and no one is being disenfranchised, no one's vote is being taken away. You can very easily mail your vote in. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Alana Emker, and I'm a resident of Scranton. I just came here to speak in favor of drop-in ballots, the drop boxes. I know a few people have mentioned the cost of it, that it would be an unnecessary cost, and I would just like to say that voting is like the most important thing in our democratic society, and I would not call anything that would help enable more people to vote a waste of taxpayer dollars in any circumstance. And that's all I have to say. I won't waste any more of your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Board. Jamie Walsh. I wanted to bring a couple of things from Luzerne County here. So I don't know how closely you've been following what's going on in Luzerne County. Our county manager decided to eliminate drop boxes over safety and security reasons. She Ms. Crocamo felt that in order to run drop boxes properly, it was going to be such an exorbitant expense to the taxpayers to have transparency and to really have those boxes secured away from ballot stuffing. Now, I don't know if you all know this or not, but there are almost, in the last election, there was almost 28 instances of ballot stuffing that happened across the state of Pennsylvania. And so we, as the citizens, wouldn't stand for it anymore. We wanted those drop boxes recorded fully. We wanted accessibility to those drop boxes to the point where we sued the county to provide us video evidence. That's at the Commonwealth Court right now. And I believe your citizens should do the same with you guys as well, because you're not being transparent. There is one reason to have drop boxes. That's so you can stuff multiple ballots in. That is it. Let's call a spade a spade. You two know it. You know it. That is the only advantage that one party has, is to stuff extra ballots in a ballot box that is not 100% secure. Let's call a spade here. That's what's going on. And we asked for video evidence. It's at the Commonwealth Court, and we are going to set a state precedent in October. That court case is coming up in October. It was supposed to be September 9th. It was continued to October. So there is going to be a precedent prior to the election to hold all of you accountable. And I commend Mr. Shermack for bringing it to light for the citizens here. And I don't think these people should stop, because there is absolutely no benefit to these drop boxes. It's too gray of an area. And the biggest reason people want drop boxes, the ballot stuffers, is because it's only a misdemeanor. If they had to stuff a U.S. Postal Service box, it's a federal crime. It's jail time. It's a felony. That's the difference between a drop box and a federal U.S. Postal Service box. So I wanted to get that on the record to let you guys know you will be RTK'd every Dropbox location, and their insurance companies are going to know about their locations as well by the end of this week. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jimmy Conroy from Jessup. So I recently moved to Jessup. I came from Luzerne County. Hi, Jamie. Thanks for taking the trip from Harvey's Lake up. Me and Jamie actually counted votes in Luzerne County in 2022. First thing I want to say is thank you, Commissioner McCloin. Thank you, Gahan. Last time that I saw you guys, I wholeheartedly did not agree with your decision. Completely different place, different environment, different vote. Thank you so much for what you're doing today. Thank you for standing against extremism. Thank you for actually doing something that's right. It is disgusting to hear some of the rhetoric that has been said today. Some of it is pre-written by national organizations, and it's not actually coming from the people that we want to hear. We want to hear from real people from Lackawanna County, real citizens that vote in this county, not national organizations, not different people that write stuff up. We want to hear what you actually think, not what other people think. Thank you guys today. Have a great day.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Suzanne Green. I'm a resident of Benton Township in Lackawanna County. I am a native of Northeast PA. First, I would like to thank Beth for outstanding service. I did ask her detailed information, and she sent it to me very timely via email. Thank you very much. Second, I would like to say that I am part of the newly formed Lackawanna Election Integrity Force. The purpose is to ensure safe, fair elections and to increase public confidence. We are working with national organizations to partner, and we'll have a lot of outreach. Second, I would like to address Commissioner, I did look at the election code, and I have an excerpt here from Article 3, Section 301, Paragraph C. Whenever a member of the County Commissioners is a candidate for nomination or election to any public office, the President Judge of the Court of Common Pleas shall appoint a judge or elector of the county to serve in his stead. I understand from the conversation earlier that you feel that it's not a public office and that doesn't apply to you. But to increase public confidence in elections, this does actually present a conflict of interest. So I am, although it's nothing personal, nothing partisan, this is about eroding public trust. So please take that into consideration. I'm asking for you for consideration of that. All right, I do have another few points. There are 2 state-mandated audits of the election process before certification. One is a 2% hand count or 2,000 ballots, whichever is less. I would like to know who is conducting that audit, and I would also like to know who is conducting the statistical audit that is also a requirement with the state. I'm also asking if there is an operational audit, which is a sampling during election day of some ballots that could be hand counted to confirm that the election equipment is actually operating properly.
Thank you.
I do have a couple of
you.
other points,
Thank
if
you
I
for
have
your
any
time.
yield.
No, I'm sorry. Your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lawrence Sale. I'm a registered voter. I'm in Scott Township, Pennsylvania. I just wanted to bring this up because one of the previous speakers more or less alleged that there's hardly any fraud in Pennsylvania. This is from the Heritage Foundation. Melissa Fisher in 2022 was convicted for fraudulent use of absentee ballots, impersonation fraud of the polls. Rasheen Edgar Cruz was criminally convicted for ballot petition fraud. Cheryl Mihalik was criminally convicted for impersonation fraud of the polls, fraudulent use of absentee ballots. Michael Ozzie Myers was convicted for altering the vote count. These are all in Pennsylvania in 2022, so you know. It's the Heritage Foundation website if you want to look. Francis Presto fraudulent use of absentee ballots, impersonation fraud at the polls, diversion program. Dominic DeMuro, criminal conviction, altering the vote count. Okay, this is 2021. And it goes on and on. You could just keep going. There's pages of it. So that's the first thing I want to bring up. Second thing, listen to your people. Look over here. What do you think they're all here for? Do you think they don't have any trust in elections anymore? I lived here my whole life. This is the worst I've seen it. Is this what you want? Are you proud of yourselves? I mean, look, do what the people want, not what you want. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Charlie Spano. I'm a resident of Scranton on Stafford Avenue. I have a couple of quick points. Number one, on ballot boxes, or the drop boxes. They need to be eliminated. They are no longer necessary, as previous speakers have pointed out. We've had a postal system in operation in this country for 200 years, since Benjamin Franklin founded it in Philadelphia. It's worked pretty well for absentee ballots, which may or may not be included in the drop box. I haven't heard that addressed at all. If a person with an absentee ballot or a mail-in ballot needed to have that mailed or sent in to voter registration, their alternative is what? To go find a drop box and pass mailboxes, or to put it at their own property for the mail carrier to pick it up. It's very simple. You could put out your utility bills with checks in them. They're taken from your property. The same thing could happen with a mail-in ballot. We don't need the drop box expense and concern. This concern could be eliminated instantly by rescinding whatever policy is in place to require them. It would improve confidence of people in their vote. Secondly, Commissioner McGloin, you spoke on people talking about the possibility of a conflict of interest. And you had a response that to some folks would make some sense. However, I'd like to ask you to reconsider that position, because not of any minimal legal requirement, which is sort of the basic bottom line of anything, but the higher moral requirement to remove the appearance of conflict. It's no secret where the partisanship is of every commissioner on that board, or even myself. However, when you've actively sought votes for a particular office, party or not, you really should consider stepping back. It's not a big deal. A judge can put another fellow partisan in place, but it removes a concern. And it's the last commissioners' meeting you mentioned you follow a good idea when you hear one. Well, I think that's a good idea. We don't need drop boxes. So you step down for this, that'll boost confidence twice.
Hello, Commissioners. I want to commend you, especially the Chair, Bill Gaughan, for allowing us to have our time in the sun here to explain our feelings about mail-in voting.
Can we get her name, please? I'm sorry, we need her name.
Oh, excuse me. My name is Patty Lawler. I'm former mayor of Clark Summit, former mayor of Clark's Green. I'm not here as a Democrat or a Republican or an independent. I'm here just to wrap my mind around, is this the best we can do with the mail-in ballot and the drop box? It occurred to me that, as all of us, Pennsylvania is in play here, big time in this election. And I wager that Lackawanna and Luzerne County are going to be one of the biggest blocks of votes they will be looking at. So in thinking that this is going to be so. We need to be sure the count is right, the count is fair, and the count is legitimate. I feel that the way this is operated, there's a lot of opportunity. It's not to cast aspersions, but there's a lot of opportunity for things like mishandling, human error, and so on and so forth, that could come into the end being it was stuffed or it was whatever. So we want to avoid that as much as we can. Also, I think, and someone had mentioned this, the safety in this society. We have a society that is actually fractured and criminal in some ways, and we're trying to find our ways back. But who's to say with the Dropbox that someone that is on the fringe, not quite balanced, has the ability to own an assault weapon, gets upset, worries that this election, their candidate isn't going to get a fair shot, isn't going to blow up the Dropbox, and or shoot someone that's either collecting or putting something in the Dropbox. Even if we did it as a pilot program for this election, forsake the Dropbox, of course, I yield to you because you are the elected officials. But it occurs to me this is going to be the election of a lifetime. And we want to have our I's crossed and our I's dotted and our T's crossed.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Marina Angel Pagan, or Marina for those who can't roll their R's. I am a resident of the Lackawanna County. I'm a transgender woman, since someone here inappropriately asked. I think the drop boxes, even though they are not as prevalent due to COVID not being, in play as much anymore, they have, in the past, have proved to be consistent with, the same, averaging around the same amount of people using them each time. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm a little frazzled. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, Kara Francis, Roaring Brook Township. Prior to the April election, I came before you all and asked several questions. I asked about whether you had any contact with the governor's office, whether you had any contact with the Bureau of Elections, Al Smith, the Election Threat Task Force. Then I asked about the Emergency Management Agency, if you had contacted them, or what were some of the parameters that you had set for emergencies, either at the locations or possibly if the power had gone down. And then my last question was related to the bonds, and I believe, Mr. Khan, you said that elected officials are all bonded. Is that correct, that the bonds are in place right now? That there's no question with relation to the bonds? They are active?
Correct.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Can someone confirm to me the amount of funds that have been received from the federal government for this election? Is it 250,000, 500, $1 million?
We'll address that at the end. Director Hopkins is taking your questions down.
Thank you. My second question is, again, related to the drop boxes and the security. We understand that there's going to be security on these drop boxes if they are actually being utilized. Will the security cameras be monitored 24/7? And could we possibly get a link for them placed on the Lackawanna County Commissioner's website so that the public can actually view them as well? The third question is, is related to after the election. Can you describe the process of how the election results are transmitted to the Department of State? And are the election results submitted via the internet, VPN secured transaction? Also, the other question is related to the results before they're certified. Is there a hard copy transmitted as well? And then, there's a lot of questions here that I'm holding from the community. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but we do have in Monroe County tomorrow a town hall happening. My question to the board, as well as the election department, is whether or not you'd be interested in participating in a public town hall meeting.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to address the board? Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Members, other business, Commissioner Chermak? Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, first, I want to thank everybody for coming, voicing your opinions. I don't know, maybe you can certainly understand how frustrating it is to be a minority commissioner sometimes when there's things you'd like to do and there's absolutely no way to do it. Can't read my own writing. So absentee ballots, mail-in ballots, there's been issues with those. I mean, the facts are there has been issues with those over the years, many, many years, going back to when Commissioner Pettinato did run. They caught an individual in the building, fell through the ceiling. He was going to try to do something with absentee ballots, so it happens. Ballot stuffing, I identified an individual right at the county building that was stuffing the box right under everyone's noses. I mean, we caught the individual doing it, so it happens. It is an expense. At this point, it's an unnecessary expense. We don't need them anymore. They are mail-in ballots. They're not drop-box ballots. So put them in the mail. Drop them off at our building. You can take them right, hand them to Beth herself. She'll be right in her office, which I do want to say something about the office. There's a group of individuals there that work, right now they're probably working 7 days a week, but they do a phenomenal job. And I do have a lot of trust in what goes on there, and I am as sure as I could be sitting here that they are as safe and secure when they're in our hands. That I will pretty much guarantee. The team that we assembled on election day to count them and sort them and do everything they do is like it works like a Swiss watch. And we're the first county, most of the time the first county that's done counting, and we have everything done. Everybody does a great job. There's watchers there, there's attorneys there. It's in the lobby of in the county building. Nobody's in a back room anywhere. So things are done, and we're there. I'm there. And I'm down at the office a lot. And let me tell you, they're busy. So, again, I still think that we don't need these boxes anymore. I mean, I stated my case. It's pretty clear that it's certainly unnecessary, and it just gives one more way for somebody to do something and misuse a mail-in or an absentee ballot. So, and to address Jamie Walsh, just remember, every single vote counts. So everyone needs to vote, whether you do a mail-in, an absentee, or you vote in person. Please tell everyone that you know. Register if they're not. Get a ballot if they're not planning on going out. Get them an application if they need one. There's ride services to go vote in person. There's so many ways to do it. So I encourage everyone to tell everyone, your friends, your neighbors, your relatives, everyone, get out and vote. So thank you.
I just want to say really quick, I know we may not all see eye to eye on everything, but I really do appreciate you being here today, and please know that your voice and your concern is certainly heard. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, our Director of Elections, I think you probably want to state some reality after what we heard today. So do you want to do a little fact-checking?
Certainly. Can I just start off by saying that I don't know what anybody's party is of all the employees that help us on Election Day. That's nothing that we ask the employees. So I'm going to kind of address things in the order that I wrote them down, and I might jump around a little bit, but in reference to the mail-in and absentee ballots now being counted in the county building as opposed to being mailed out to or being sent out to the polling places to be counted. That changed in 2019 with Act 77, and that was passed by the Pennsylvania State Legislature. So I suggest if anybody wants to go back to the mail-ins and absentees being counted at the polls, they contact their state representative, okay? I think that maybe you feel that nobody is kind of there as the watchdog on Election Day while we're pre-canvassing and canvassing the absentee and mail-in ballots. I suggest you contact your party chairperson, regardless of what party you're affiliated with, or perhaps the person who is organizing the campaign for the candidate that you are supporting. They will all assign watchers on Election Day, not only at the polling places, but consider that the Lackawanna County Government Center lobby is a polling place, since all the mail-in and absentee ballots are counted there. I'm going to read you a little bit on the watcher statement so you understand how many people are allowed to be appointed watchers and who does that. Each candidate may appoint 2 watchers, each where the candidate is on the ballot. Each political party and political body which has nominated candidates may appoint 3 watchers at any general, municipal, or special election in each district where a candidate of such party is on the ballot. Only 1 watcher for each candidate or each party or political body can remain in the polling place at any one time during voting hours. Watchers must be qualified registered electors of the county in which they are authorized to act. Each watcher shall be authorized to serve in the election district for which the watcher was appointed. When the watcher is not serving in said election district, the watcher is authorized to serve in any other election district in the county. In addition to that, most of the major political parties and bodies assign attorneys to be present all day long as we're doing the pre-canvass and the canvass. A judge from the Lackawanna County bench is present all day in the Lackawanna County Voter Registration Office and present while we're doing the canvass. So I suggest if anybody has concerns regarding the process and how it's done, to contact their party chair and ask to be a watcher on Election Day and be part of the process. Okay. In reference to the ballots that are returned to us that are undated or unsigned, those ballots are segregated and the voters receive an automatic response when it's scanned if they have an email address on file, giving them the reason why the ballot is kind of pending. So, I mean, I still believe maybe Attorney Frederickson can speak more on that. I don't know that we've had the final decision about ballot curing, so we'll kind of maybe come back to that. In reference to on the voter registration application where it states I do not have a driver's license and or Pennsylvania ID or social security number, that application is put in a pending status and a letter is sent to the voter to provide identification to us. So it can go through a HAVA check to verify the voter's identity. I'm sorry, I'm kind of jumping all over the place. I made many notes. As far as the 2% audit and the statistical audit, that is done by employees in the voter registration office. It's done during the official canvass, the Friday after the election. And again, watchers are present from the parties and from the political candidates. And usually attorneys for all the major political parties are present while we're doing that. And I'm certain people probably in this room have attended it in the past. I'd like to always say, if anybody has any questions, you can always contact our office. I think it's important to know that the election staff of Lackawanna County works tirelessly every day to ensure the execution of a safe, fair, and efficient election. Either myself or a member of the election staff has assisted almost every person in this room. The voter registration staff serves every citizen of Lackawanna County the same, regardless of who they support or what political party they're a member of. And I've pretty much worked with almost everybody in this room. And I hope I've addressed most of the issues. If someone has anything more specific they'd like to discuss with me, you can call, or my office door is always open.
Thank you. Just to wrap things up, I have to be honest with everybody. The level of ignorance, stupidity, and misinformation that was portrayed today as democracy is striking and shocking. As a former civics teacher, as I sat up here today and listened to some of you get up, it pained me. It actually bothers me. So it's clear that we need to start investing more in civics education in the United States of America. The fact that today we had to get an education on democracy and democratic values from two of the speakers who are convicted felons, again, is shocking.
You're disgusting.
Our election, must have order. Our election office, as Director Hopkins said, is top-notch. In fact, when Al Schmidt was in from the state, he had said the same. So please educate yourselves on the process. Thank you very much. I'll make a motion to adjourn. On the question, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Have a great day. Thank you.
Shame on you. Now we know who gets paid. Beth is wonderful. You're a jerk.